Hello, I'm Bruce Zimmerman, and this is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week. Now, is this Indian summer? No, because the strict rules for Indian summer means that it comes after a frost, usually a hard frost, and we haven't had one of those yet. So this warm weather is exactly that, just warm weather, a nice fall, but it also means that we are getting drier and drier and drier. So we need you first to look at the plants that you have in your garden that show signs of stress first. Hydrangeas and your turf. Turf grass, you know that you need at least an inch of rain every 7 to 10 days at this time of year. And we haven't had it. So I need you to either water or pray for rain, or let's just say steal water. No, can't steal water. But in any case, you need to water your lawn and garden on a more regular basis. So we have been spoiled all summer with it and the regular rain, but now we have to change and shift gears in the fact that we will have to water. The other thing that you need to do is you need to slowly start moving into fall and fall cleanup. With this warm weather, it makes beautiful gardening, and you need to do a few things. One, you can in the evenings, because let's be honest, night is coming a little sooner these days, and it's getting a little dark. So once that happens, there's no reason for you not to go in and clean up some of the tools you know you're not going to need this fall. What you're trying to do is, instead of getting a glut of cleanup at the end when the weather is not necessarily as nice, start taking and working your way through what you can do now. For example, tools. Let's get some of those tools you know you're not going to use cleaned up. You want all the dirt off of them. For long-term storage, a lot of steel will be given a little bit of a vegetable oil or canola oil, just a quick wipe down after they're clean and put away. That's good for long-term storage, but if you know you just need to go and clean them up because they are a little dirtier than you'd like to keep them, get them washed, get them out into the sun, let them dry, and then put them back until you're ready and know that you're finished using them for the fall, and then you know you've got a little less of a job to do at that time. It's important that you do good cleanup because, let's be honest, good tools make jobs easier. Now, once you've done that and you've done some watering, particularly turf and hydrangeas and other plants in the garden, you want to make sure that you've got everything planned for next year. I want you to go and start thinking, making notes, and planning next year's gardens. What didn't work? A lot of people don't go and make notes throughout the season. So we've got the weather. It's perfect. Take a little time, take an hour, take a coffee break, take a tea break, take a pop break, so that, whatever you want to drink, just take your time and make notes. Write it down. Because come snow time, you're going to go, now what was I going to do over there? And why was I going to move that plant? Of course, it's buried under the snow, so there's no visual trigger, and therefore you're probably going to wonder what the heck you were thinking at the time. So, do that. Notes. What are you going to move? When are you going to move it? Plan it. Plan stage by stage by stage. If you're working your way through your garden and you're going to change an area of the garden, well, if you've got to move plants out of that area into other areas, you're going to have to do some garden prep. And speaking of garden prep, if there is space ready, there's no reason for you not to prepare the soil for the digging and replanting or transplanting or dividing of the plants come spring. So you can this fall do a lot of prep with the soil where you know you're going to change the garden. Now, when it comes to a vegetable garden, we're starting to clean up. Now, you want to take out as much as necessary. And you want to make sure you're taking out all debris. If there's any disease in the plant material, then make them gone to the street. Otherwise, they can be composted. But I don't want you to work them into the ground. The reason is, in working them into the ground, a lot of diseases will overwinter in the organic matter of the soil. And therefore, with the first spring rain, spores, and a lot of diseases will start as the soil goes and warms up. Just as you're ready to plant all these poor young plants, the diseases are going to start to run rampant. By leaving it dug, work in some manure if you want, etc., improve the soil, but you want, when you're finished, a rough dug vegetable and flower garden where it's not smooth. No, we want it rough dug so that snow and rain are trapped in between the clods of soil. Now, once you've got it to that point and the ground is getting crusty, there's no reason why you can't go and take a few of the bags of manure you've been keeping in the garage that are warm, not frozen, and dump it over top of the garden and just leave it there. Okay, let it work its way down, let the rain, the snow, frost action all work in the garden so that come spring, you can work it all in, do your seeding preparation of the soil so that you've got seed beds and plants and ready to go. The soil is all done for you. It's a little easier to spread it out rather than trying to do all of that 2 weeks before you're ready to plant in your garden. Because let's be honest, if you're doing cold crops and you're doing them at the, let's say, middle to end of April, that makes it difficult to do a lot of garden prep in there for 2 weeks ahead. Because you want 2 weeks in ahead to work all the organic matter in and, of course, go and let it start to work, break down, and the fertilizer to release in cold soils. So it's better if you do it in the fall or as much as possible. You like the idea of the clods and capturing it because it does trap snow, and you'll get less soil erosion as well when it freezes, when it traps, and the soil in between is full of water for next spring. You are planting bulbs, and again, at about this time with that warmth, you still have time to plant both hyacinths and daffodils. Your tulips, you got all of October and early November for that. But the small bulbs, I want you to go and plant late. They should be the last ones. Think of it. If you'd gone and planted in early September when the first bulbs came into the garden center, and you were suddenly quite cool, and we were getting, those very cold nights, etc., those little spring bulbs, which are only planted 2 to 4 inches down on average, what are they going to be? Oh, warm, sunny. It's spring. And up they come. Often, if it's long enough with this warm weather, they actually bloom in the fall. And you've got plants above the ground that have to winter and survive the snow and wind and sunlight on this bulb and leaves in frozen ground. Not the easiest things. They'll do it, but they suffer badly, and they often don't make a lot of food. So you end up having them with green foliage well into June, even on small bulbs. The bigger bulbs, even longer. So do some of these things now. Do the tools. Do look after your turf. Look after the plants that are basically in need of some little tender, loving care. It's a little early to cut down a lot of plants, but there are some in the garden that may need a little garden cleanup. Some of the leaves that have started to shed, we want to make sure that they're gone. Particularly, I'm starting to see a lot of tar spot on Norway maple and Norway maple variety of trees, and they all seem to be all blowing into my garden. I don't know why. I don't have any of them, but of course the neighbors do. So good garden cleanup, good sanitation, and you should be fine to spread out your work. And as the weather gets worse, you have less and less to do. Remember, you're cutting your lawn only about 1.5 to 2 inches. We don't want to slow it down yet. It's not time. With all this warm weather and adequate moisture, and if you fed earlier like I told you, you're going to get good, strong growth and a good, strong turf for next spring. This is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week.